It was one of those nights where the rain felt like it was trying to break through the roof. Sheets of water pounded the windows, and thunder rolled in waves, shaking the old siding of the house. I was house-sitting for my aunt while she was out of town, a two-story place out on Red Pine Road, near the edge of town, backed up against a stretch of woods. I remember it was around 11:30 p.m. I just made tea and was settling on the couch with my laptop when everything, and I mean everything, went black. Power out. No lights, no Wi-Fi. Total silence except for the storm hammering outside. The sudden quiet from the appliances going off was eerie. I grabbed my phone. 8% battery. I used the flashlight to look around. The wind was still howling, but the trees outside were pitch black, like walls of ink pressed against the windows. I tried flipping switches out of habit, but nothing came on. Then I noticed something strange. The motion light above the back porch flicked on. It's one of those floodlights that only activates when someone's out there. I froze. I stood by the window, staring out. The rain blurred everything, but I could just barely make out the porch, and someone was standing there, just beyond the railing. Still, facing the house. I blinked, thinking maybe it was a trick of the water or a tree limb moving, but it didn't sway, didn't shift, just stood there. I backed away, heart racing, and killed the flashlight on my phone. I stood in the dark for a solid minute, not breathing, trying to listen past the storm. Then I heard 3 knocks on the back door, measured, not rushed, like they were waiting for me. I didn't move. My aunt doesn't have neighbors close by, and no one just shows up out there, especially not in the middle of a thunderstorm, and definitely not at midnight during a blackout. I backed into the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife I could find. I dialed 911, but my phone screen stayed frozen. Dead. The battery hadn't even run out. It just wouldn't respond. That's when I noticed something else. The knocking had stopped, but the motion light turned off. A few seconds later, it flicked on again. This time the figure was closer, right at the glass, hand pressed to the door. I swear to God I saw them smiling, not like hi there smiling. A full grin, teeth showing, face tilted at a weird angle like their neck couldn't support the weight of their head. They didn't move, just stood there, watching me. Then all the lights in the house snapped back on at once. I blinked against the sudden brightness and ran to the window. No one there. I ran to the back door. Locked. Porch empty. Floodlight off. I checked the security camera system my aunt had installed last year, one facing the porch, the others around the yard. The back camera feed, static, for 11 full minutes. When my aunt got home the next day, I told her everything. She didn't say much, just looked tired. Before she left the room, she muttered, "He came back then." I never asked what she meant. It was a heavy night, the kind of rain that feels like it's pressing down on everything. I was home alone. My wife had gone out of town to visit her parents, and I was trying to relax on the couch with a random show playing in the background. It was around 10:30 p.m. when I heard knocking at the front door. I paused the TV, confused. Then it came again. 3 slow, solid knocks. I peeked through the peephole. A man stood there, drenched from head to toe, his hoodie stuck to his skin. He looked exhausted. "Hello?" I called out, without opening the door. "Sorry to bother you. My car broke down the road. I've been walking for a while. It's raining hard. Just need to dry off for a bit." Something about his voice made me hesitate. It was calm, but almost emotionless. I told him I couldn't let anyone in. He nodded slightly, muttered a thank you, and walked off into the dark, or so I thought. 2 minutes later, knock, 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 same door, same rhythm. I looked again. It was him. Just a few minutes. I don't want anything else, just some shelter from the rain. I knew I shouldn't, but something about his persistence felt different from your typical sketchy encounter. He didn't seem aggressive. He just looked tired. I sighed and unlocked the door. Only for a few minutes. And don't touch anything, I said, keeping my voice firm. He stepped in slowly, saying nothing. His clothes left a trail of water on the floor. I went to grab him a towel. When I came back, he was standing in the middle of the living room, looking around like he knew the place. How long have you lived here? He asked. The question caught me off guard. About 2 years. Why? He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. More nostalgic. Soft. Like remembering something painful. This house used to be very different, you know. Before the renovation. The attic was open. The floors were still dark wood. And the kitchen, it had those pale blue tiles. The old owner hated them. I froze. I had never told anyone about those things. Not online. Not to neighbors. No one. How do you know that? He turned to me slowly, calm, certain. A lot happened here. The kind of things that stay in the walls, in the basement. You can still feel it sometimes, if you really pay attention. A chill ran through me. I tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, but he went silent. He sat down in the armchair by the window and stared outside, eyes locked on the rain. The storm began to ease. I walked to the kitchen, just for a second, to check my phone. When I came back, he was gone. The door was still locked. The floor was dry. The towel gone. I searched the whole house. Nothing. I checked the security cameras. There was no footage for that entire time window. Like he had never even been there. The next morning, I called the woman who used to own the house, an older lady in her 70s. I told her what happened. She went quiet. Then she said, "You just described my brother. He lived there before I did. He died in a storm in 2009, trying to fix the roof. We never really cleared out the attic after that." She hung up before I could ask anything else. Now every time it storms, I hear those same 3 knocks at the door. I never open it. But the towel I gave him that night, it showed up again on the couch. Still wet. It was about 1:15 a.m. when I left the gas station just outside of Rockford, Illinois. The storm had been chasing me for hours, creeping in like a curtain behind my car. I was trying to make it back to my apartment in Dixon before it hit full force, but I knew I'd misjudged it. The rain came down fast, then hard, like someone flipped a switch. The wipers couldn't keep up. Visibility dropped to maybe 10 feet and the road felt like a sheet of oil. I slowed down to a crawl, hands tight on the wheel, just trying to stay centered in my lane. That stretch of Route 43 is isolated. No lights, no towns for miles, just woods and farmland. I hadn't seen another car in maybe 20 minutes. That's when everything shut off. The dash lights, the radio, the engine, even the headlights. Gone. 1 second I was driving through a storm. The next, I was gliding in complete darkness. The engine was dead, but the momentum kept me moving forward. No power steering. No brakes. I fought the wheel and managed to coast to the shoulder, heart thundering in my chest. The rain was still hammering the windshield, but now the only light came from brief flashes of lightning. I tried restarting the car. Nothing. No clicks, no flickers. My phone was at 12%, barely holding a signal. I sent my girlfriend a quick message. Car died on 43, storm, trying to call tow. I never got a reply. A bolt of lightning lit up the road around me. And in that split second, I swear I saw someone standing at the tree line. I turned to look. Nothing. I told myself it was a trick of the eyes. Shadows playing games. But then, I saw movement in my rearview mirror. Not a car, a shape, human. Walking slowly along the shoulder toward my car. From the woods, no flashlight, no hood, just walking in the middle of a storm. I turned the key again, desperate. Still dead. I locked the doors, heart pounding. Grabbed the tire iron from under the passenger seat and held it tight. Another flash, and now the figure was closer. I could make out a soaked jacket. Long arms. But the face, it was tilted upward, staring at the sky, mouth open. I wanted to honk, yell, flash my lights, but I had nothing, and then they stopped moving, just stood behind my car, not knocking, not speaking, not running, just standing there. I couldn't see their face anymore, just the outline in the rain. After a few agonizing minutes, they walked around to the passenger side and crouched down, gone from view. I waited and waited. Then, for the first time since the car died, the radio crackled back on. It wasn't music. It was static. And then a voice, faint, like a whisper buried under snow. You shouldn't have stopped. I turned the key again. The engine roared back to life. Everything lit up like normal. Dash, lights, wipers, all working. Again. The passenger side, empty. No one there. I peeled out of there, nearly fishtailing as I sped off. Didn't stop until I reached a gas station 25 miles down. When I checked my phone, the message I sent to my girlfriend, still marked sending. That was 3 years ago. I've never had another issue with the car. No problems on that road since. But sometimes, when I drive alone at night, the radio flickers for a second, just long enough to hear that same voice again. You shouldn't have stopped.